Hi, I'm Neil Bertrando with RT Permaculture, and I'm here today to talk about low-tech erosion controls as part of our upcoming low-tech erosion control online course. And today I'm here to talk about just some simple techniques that can be used to manage water flowing on roads and how to reconnect the downhill hydrology of the landscape, particularly when a road has crossed it and severed and collected the uphill runoff and diverted it from the downhill side of the landscape. And this is really important because roads commonly divert water and often become the creek and significant erosion gullies in landscapes, especially dirt roads like this one we see here, which is at a site in Temecula, California in Riverside County. It's a very dry site, hot, and this is just following some recent rains. And we noticed that these recent rains had caused water flow and a really small erosion rill that was flowing down the downhill side of the road because the road had been used in just enough to sink it below the gradient of the downhill side and create a little berm. And all it takes is this little berm on the downhill side of the road to divert the water, keep it on the road, and start the erosion process, which once you start concentrating water in the channel and it creates a rill, that rill then doesn't undo itself. It continues to worsen and form gullies and that sort of thing. And so we wanted to catch it when it was small like this because it's much easier to treat at that point. And so what we did to treat it was we used a fish scale straw mulch approach, a vertical mulch approach, just creating little impediments in the actual actively eroding rill, using straw that we imported as straw bales onto the site, which was fairly easy and effective to import onto the site. You could use other sorts of materials like rocks. You could use a couple of, some gravel or small rocks to do this, or you could use a woody brush from the site if that's what you have available. You could probably even use some soil, although it would be less resilient to erosion than something like vertical mulch that's packed in and anchored or rock. So we created these little fish scale straw mulch, vertical mulch patches, and then made sure that they were high enough, and we nicked out where we needed to the roadside, the berm on the downhill side of the road, so that water would then be able to flow back into the landscape. And we did it frequently so that there wasn't a lot of water accumulating between any of these structures, because they're not very high resistant structures. They're still just straw, lightweight organic matter, and small. So we did a lot of them. And the idea was that the water that's coming down as sheet flow in the landscape starting to create some rill erosion as it's crossing this road here where it's been denuded of vegetation. You can see all the rills. You can see kind of the water flow paths. But at least to reconnect those and try to reestablish some distributed flow and ideally sheet flow in the landscape downhill from the road, and not allow the water to continue the destructive path that it was taking down along the road, creating a rill and then a gully. So we continued this. We treated a large section of it until the road actually started going uphill again. Down here, the road changes grade. So we did it all the way until the road changed grade from going downhill to going back uphill. And that treated this section of road with a simple, low cost, easily implemented technique with very little materials and training involved.
Yeah, Neil, I think what I see here and what I love about this is a rancher, a homesteader, an acreage owner, land manager, anybody who's dealing with infrastructure like roads, which are expensive to create, which cost money to maintain, with very little effort, with very little material and very little money, can further ensure that their asset stays in good repair for years, decades to come.
Yeah, and this is not a high traffic road. People aren't driving on it every day with large vehicles. It's mostly used by Pedestrians, horseback riders, and bicycle riders. There are some, golf carts or other sort of that size of equipment, ATVs using the road. So I think that's important to consider when you're, thinking about what sort of techniques you're applying. And this was also, rapidly put in. Just took a couple people, an hour to just put in all these structures. And so it allows you to quickly see if it's effective. And also it's not a high cost of implementation to get some feedback from the site. If this were a bigger road used by trucks and things like that, and used daily at a higher level of frequency and intensity, then I'd probably look at something a little bit more durable as a treatment. But I might consider doing something like this just to get started. A lot of these things is like, let's just slow the process down, watch and observe the site, really see if the minimal effort is enough. And if it is, then that's great. And if it's not, then you can take a bigger step.
Well said. Well said. If you're watching this and you're thinking, wow, I want to learn how to do this, this would be great for my landscape or my business, you can join Neil Bertrando of RT Permaculture as well as Jeffrey Adams of Terra Sophia in winter of 2022. And they'll have a 7-session course that will go through observations, decision-making, toolkit, and really walk you through step by step how to do this on your land. Thanks a lot for watching.